Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. I'm good.
Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, Timothy J. Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. And thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. I want to say I appreciate you all waking up with yours truly this morning. A little bit of an early prediction show. But nonetheless, I really do appreciate your time. Shouts out to everybody in the chat right now and those that are watching or listening, no matter where you are, wherever you may be. We're here to break down the Saints Week 11 matchup. The Saints get a little bit more of home cooking as they head into the bye after this game. They will be taking on the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns are a 2-7 football team. They're coming off a bye week, which in my opinion should help them in this game, an extra week of being able to prepare for the New Orleans Saints and what they did on last week by knocking off the Atlanta Falcons by a score of 20-17. The Cleveland Browns are a 2-7 football team, Who Dat Nation, and the Saints are a 3-7 football team. Now, looking at this game, looking at the tail of the tape, if you're just a casual NFL fan, you're probably not paying this game any attention. But if you are a Saints or a Browns fan, you're probably definitely paying attention to this football game. The Saints and the Browns don't normally play each other as much. Of course, the Browns are an AFC team. They play in the AFC North. So you normally have these games every 3 to 4 years. But the New Orleans Saints and the Cleveland Browns always put on classics, man. Like it just seems like there's always something that's going on with a game that becomes like a headline. Always comes down to the last second. Some type of dramatics always takes place. For example, I can remember like growing up in the 90s, the Saints took on the Cleveland Browns in the Superdome on Halloween. And the Saints pretty much had the game well in hand. It just came down to some desperation stuff by the Cleveland Browns. And Tim Couch throws a Hail Mary into the end zone. And the wide receiver catches it for a touchdown. The Cleveland Browns win that football game. I can remember there was a game where the Cleveland Browns were heavy underdogs going into a game versus the New Orleans Saints. And I want to say Drew Brees got sacked about 5 or 6 times in that game. And the Cleveland Browns shocked the New Orleans Saints. Then I can remember a game where it was back and forth. You had, if I'm not mistaken, Tyrod Taylor threw I'm talking about a moon ball to Antonio Callaway, which should have won the game for the Cleveland Browns, but Zane Gonzalez, he was a rookie at the time. He's a kicker. He missed several field goals that cost the Cleveland Browns the game, and the Saints won. And then most recently, we remember that game that was below zero. We call that the Taysom Hill game, where Taysom Hill basically just ran the Saints to victory a few years ago. So there's always these classic Saints-Browns games, even though they don't play one another very often, and they're in different conferences. But the reality is both of these teams are trying to figure it out. You got the Cleveland Browns, once again, 2-7. It seems like they're having a little bit of a fire sale, a little bit of a reset button is being hit. We know that they gave Deshaun Watson all that guaranteed money, over $250 million of guaranteed money. He hasn't looked the part. We know that things that involve Deshaun Watson are indeed controversial, but it doesn't help the fact that he was playing pretty bad. The Cleveland Browns weren't able to, convert on third down. They couldn't score more than 20 points. They had some issues with this football team. And then you have them trading Amari Cooper. There were reports about them even shopping Myles Garrett. So this team is trying to turn it around. Kevin Stefanski, who has been a really good coach for the Cleveland Browns, he has brought them to the playoffs. He has, done some really good things offensively using what they have. Also defensively, Jim Schwartz, the former Detroit Lions defensive coordinator, always has the Cleveland Browns defense respectable. So on paper, if you're looking at this team, you got to admit, man, they got some talent on both sides of the football. But if you're just basically a casual fan just watching the record, you're probably not going to see that. Then you have the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints coming off a victory against the Atlanta Falcons. Shocked a lot of people. Darren Rizzi, now the interim head coach. People are kind of chunking that victory up to a little bit of an interim bump. What they mean by that is, everybody's inspired, everybody's encouraged. Now there's a changing of the guard. But the New Orleans Saints are trying to build on this momentum, and they're getting players back. Eric McCoy, who has missed several weeks, haven't played since the Philadelphia Eagles game early in the season. He was taken off IR, and more than likely he'll be playing on today. We know earlier in the week, the Saints, they released Connor McGovern, offensive lineman that they got off the Jets practice squad. They end up signing him, and he has been formidable for a couple of weeks. He's not going to knock your socks off, but based on what the Saints asked him to do, he can only do as much as he possibly could. So now he's gone, and Eric McCoy comes back. And this is a huge void that was missing on the offensive line. We know that Eric McCoy is one of the best offensive linemen in football. He is probably a top 3 center in all of football. He's starting to get his respect as an offensive lineman. And I think it's going to help the New Orleans Saints. If you've seen over the last couple of weeks, you might have paid attention to the fact that the Saints have been able to run the football a little bit better. Now you add Eric McCoy to the mix, I expect for them to be able to run the ball even better. Now, the Cleveland Browns, they do have a little bit of a pass rush. I mean, you might have heard of this guy. His name is Myles Garrett. He was a number 1 overall pick a few years ago coming out of Texas A&M. And most recently, he has been the defensive player of the year. Right now, he has 7 sacks on the season. This is a tough matchup for rookie Tallahassee Fuanga, who has been playing, pretty good for what you're asking him to do. We know that the sky's the limit for Fuanga. He's a tough guy. He's been dealing with a back injury for, the entire season. But he has been in the lineup, giving it his all. But he's going to have to give it his all today versus the Cleveland Browns and Myles Garrett. They also have Jeremiah Owusu-Kamara. This guy is a guy who can, he can play sideline to sidelines. He can also get pressure on the quarterback as well. So, I mean, you know that the Cleveland Browns were one of those teams, I want to say even as early as last year. I think they had the number 1 ranked defense in all of football. Now, they have taken a step back. They haven't really gotten opportunities to, get turnovers. I want to say they forced 8 fumbles and they recovered 4. And also they only have 1 interception on the season, which I found very, very shocking. So the New Orleans Saints, if they're going to win this football game, they're going to have to find creative ways in order to get Alvin Kamara the ball in space. Now, I expect for the New Orleans Saints to kind of run the football and, try to force the issue, maybe wear down the front of the Cleveland Browns. But you're going to have to find other ways to get Alvin Kamara involved. And we know that the Saints have been trying to do that. Over 55 touches over the last 2 weeks for Alvin Kamara. Teams have been getting a heavy dose of him. And it seems like he's starting to get better and better as the games go on. Now, we know about the game last week where he could have sealed the deal. He dropped the pass, but I don't expect for that to happen anytime soon. If he is, lined up one-on-one on a linebacker, I expect for Alvin Kamara to come down with the ball as well as a big game or even a touchdown, depending on how the defense is structured. But this is going to be a good game because you have the Saints defense played very, very inspired on last week versus the Falcons. They were able to get pressure on Kirk Cousins. They were able to get some unusual suspects involved. Peyton Turner got a sack. Chase Young got a sack, and so did Cam Jordan. So you had 3 sacks in this game. But something that was very, very alarming to me was your two young guys, the two young guys that you were depending on to be cornerstone guys. I didn't see Brian Brzee that much, involved in the game. I think he may have had like maybe 2 or 3 tackles. Carl Granderson didn't even register a tackle. He only had 1 pass deflection, and that's not what you want. I mean, you paid Carl Granderson to kind of be that guy, to be the successor to Cam Jordan. As Cam Jordan gets older, his snap count starts to dwindle. You want Carl Granderson to be involved, and him being a starter and not registering any type of statistic when it comes to tackling for loss or a sack, that's alarming. And I think that you're probably not going to see a game like that from Carl Granderson again. I expect for him to be involved. And also with Chase Young, Chase Young was able to get a sack. In my opinion, I think he got 2 sacks. I mentioned against the Carolina Panthers, they tried to go for it on 2, and he ended up sacking Bryce Young. But we know that when 2-point conversions are involved, if a defensive end or a linebacker or safety gets a sack on the quarterback, it doesn't count. It's just, an unsuccessful conversion, which to me, I feel like the NFL may need to look at, because you're robbing a guy out of, some statistics here. And it's almost like that play don't even exist unless, a block is involved. So I feel like that's something maybe the NFL needs to look at. But Chase Young, over the last couple of weeks, he has gotten home. People aren't paying attention to it because, once again, the Bryce Young sack didn't count. But the fact that he was able to get pressure on Kirk Cousins, he was able to, continue to fight. I think the biggest gripe that people have about Chase Young is his motor kind of runs cold sometimes. Like he kind of loses interest. Sometimes if he's not winning a matchup or maybe not getting home the way that he wants to, he'll probably take a play or 2 or 3 off. If the New Orleans Saints are going to get themselves out of this hole that they're in, Chase Young is going to have to continue to keep that motor running and also get pressure on the quarterback. And speaking of quarterback, we know that the Cleveland Browns quarterback Jameis Winston will be in this game. He has started over the last couple of weeks. He got the upset victory over the Baltimore Ravens late seconds in the game. He throws a touchdown to Cedric Tillman with under 1 minute left in the game. But he came back down to earth against the Los Angeles Chargers. 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. We know what Jameis Winston is. I think most Saints fans love Jameis Winston, how personable he is, his leadership qualities. It just seems like, he's a man of the people. But we know what he is as a quarterback. He's a guy that has a really strong arm. He has arm arrogance, feels like he can make all the throws. And in the process, he puts the ball in harm's way. So to me, the New Orleans Saints are going to have to be prepared for it. Jameis Winston will throw you an interception. I mean, it's like debt, taxes, and Jameis throwing an interception to you. It's just a matter of, are you going to catch it? Is it just that plain and simple? Like there were times in the game versus Baltimore, he threw the ball right into the hands of the defender and they dropped it. The Saints defenders are just going to have to be prepared to catch the football if it comes their way. If they don't, then Jameis Winston, that's not going to stop him from throwing the football in harm's way. He believes in his wide receivers. He believes in his running backs and tight ends. When he is out there, he gives them the greatest vote of confidence that you can give to a wide receiver, tight end, or a running back. He is going to give them opportunities to be on ESPN. He's going to give them opportunity to make a big play. So the New Orleans Saints defense is going to have to be ready. But the good news is it sounds like and seems like they're going to get a little bit of extra help in the secondary. Shamar Jean-Charles over the last couple of weeks has filled in because Paulson Adebo is out for the season. And we know that the Saints have moved on from Marshawn Lattimore, trading him to the Commanders. So now you have Kool-Aid McKinstry coming back. He'll be opposite of Alontae Taylor, who battled pretty formidably last week versus the Atlanta Falcons. There were some ups, there were some downs, but that kind of comes with the territory of being a cornerback. And especially you have to take into account that Alontae Taylor kind of transitioned to being that slot guy. And now you're asking him to go back to the outside. So there are certain techniques that he probably has been grown accustomed to over the last couple of seasons, being a slot guy. Now you're trying to thrust him back to the outside, which he has done throughout his entire football life. but you're still asking him to do something that is a tad bit different from, you know, all the other things that are going on. Excuse me. Sorry about that. But yeah, but Kool-Aid McKinstry will be coming back. You know, and I think that this could be very helpful for the New Orleans Saints. Kool-Aid McKinstry is the guy now. I mean, the Saints drafted him in the second round. They expect for him to kind of be that guy that can be that cornerstone player for the New Orleans Saints. And he has big shoes to fill because he kind of fits that mold of being that shutdown, lockdown guy that the Saints want. And you no longer have Marshawn Lattimore as that guy anymore. So now it's Kool-Aid McKinstry and Alontae Taylor show. So they got some talented wide receivers for the Cleveland Browns. You got Jared Jeudy. I mentioned Cedric Tillman. I want to say they have Elijah Moore as well. You don't have Amari Cooper anymore, traded him to the Bills. And also at the tight end position, you have David Njoku, who to me can be a matchup nightmare and a guy that can play an integral part in this game if the Cleveland Browns end up winning. Because we know that the Saints, and this has been their history, they have struggled versus those athletic pass-catching tight ends. Now, Joe Woods, a guy who was the defensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns, and he's very familiar with guys like David Njoku and some of these other players that play offense for the Cleveland Browns. But look, the Saints are who they are. That's what their identity is. And some of those players, regardless of how you're talking about scheme, they have been getting beat down by some of these tight ends that can catch the ball really well. So David Njoku, to me, is the guy that I think that Jameis Winston is going to be relying on, depending on in the middle of the field. The New Orleans Saints defense is going to have to be prepared for that. Also, they're going to have to be able to get pressure on Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston can scramble. He can move around and and maybe extend some things, maybe wait a second in order for his wide receiver to be able to get down the field or break off the route. But you got to be able to get him down on the ground. And once again, when those opportunities present themselves for a possible turnover, you got to be willing to catch it. Also, the running game of the Cleveland Browns. You know, you have Nick Chubb, who came off that devastating knee injury that could have been career threatening. He has been back over the last couple of weeks. They also have a young, talented running back by the name of Jerome Ford. So we know that the New Orleans Saints run defense is terrible. I mean, it is what it is. 11 weeks into the season, I don't see that changing. So I expect for the Cleveland Browns to try to run the football as well. If they find success, this can be very, very dangerous for the New Orleans Saints because I think looking at the Cleveland Browns, they like Jameis Winston, but they're not trying to put the game into the hands of Jameis Winston. They kind of just want him to manage the game. If they can run the football, I'm talking Cleveland with Jerome Ford and Nick Chubb, this can be very dangerous for the New Orleans Saints. And if they do what they did last week, you have to say that more than likely the Cleveland Browns are going to they're going to find success. To me, this might come down to some special teams play. I think that Blake Grupe needs to be ready. I think that he might kick maybe 2, even 3 field goals in this game. Wouldn't surprise me if it's a little bit more. He's going to have to make these field goals if the New Orleans Saints are going to win this football game, because I can see there are going to be some defensive struggles in this game. I have that type of respect for the Cleveland Browns. Now, when it comes to Derek Carr played decent last week, especially in the first half. The first half, he looked really good. He looked for the Saints wide receivers. He looked for Valdez-Scantling. He looked for Kevin Austin. He looked for Dante Pettis, 3 guys that nobody expected to do anything in the game last week. But you had Valdez-Scantling who stepped up. Dante Pettis caught a couple passes as well as Kevin Austin. So they're using what they have, man. And these are 3 hungry wide receivers, guys that are getting opportunities. And if things weren't the way that they were when you don't have Shaheed and Chris Olave and Bub Means, you probably wouldn't see these guys. So they're actually playing like it. They're happy to get an opportunity to showcase their skills, and they're taking advantage of that. They did it last week. The question is, Will they be able to do it this week? Now that teams are going to be able to respect them. They're not going to just look at them like decoys or guys that's not going to get the football. They're going to have the undivided attention of the Cleveland Browns defense. And then if you notice last week, and this is something that I'm going to continue to beat the drum about and continue to talk about, the Saints' second half adjustments have not been up to par. Clint Kubiak has done a really good job at bringing, a really good game plan to the fold early in the game. The first 15 scripted plays, the ebbs and flows of the first quarter, getting guys involved in the second quarter, utilizing Taysom Hill. And then all of a sudden, the second half, teams make adjustments. Like last week, A.J. Terrell started to shadow Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and it took that deep threat away from him. And then all of a sudden, the New Orleans Saints kept on doing that same stretch play, running to the right, goes nowhere, runs to the left, goes nowhere, on first down over and over and over again. And then it was constant 3 and outs. So to me, Clint Kubiak has got to continue to be in his bag. That is something that I feel like I have not seen enough of from Clint Kubiak as the offensive coordinator, making those adjustments at the half. We know that Jim Schwartz, former head coach, very, very talented guy, very good at, doing some of the things defensively. He's able to make those adjustments. Kevin Stefanski, doesn't matter what you throw at him offensively, he comes up with a game plan. He's able to make some of those adjustments. If the New Orleans Saints are clicking and gelling in the first half, and then all of a sudden you're not making those adjustments, you got that Dennis Allen mind frame of keep doing what you're doing, you can lose this football game. So to me, it's up to the special teams play being involved, also the adjustments from Clint Kubiak. Derek Carr, to me, if he can throw the ball maybe 16 to 20 times this game, I think that should be suffice. Utilizing the running game should be key in this game, trying to, get Alvin Kamara involved, as well as Taysom Hill, man. I don't know if they have Taysom Hill on a snap count or what, but you're going to have to utilize Taysom Hill, man. I mean, we got to make sure that you're emptying the clip. You got to make sure that you using all of your weapons and also getting those tight ends involved as well. Foster Moreau has made some plays, and also Juwan Johnson has made some plays in between as well. But overall, looking at this football game, based on what I'm seeing, who do I feel is going to win this football game? I got to give it to the New Orleans Saints. I think that they're going to be motivated to continue to play under Darren Rizzi. I think that they're probably going to do some of the same stuff they've been doing all season, which is the holding penalties. They're probably going to shoot themselves in the foot a couple of times, but they're going to continue to battle. And this game may come down to, a final possession for the New Orleans Saints where it might be a walk-off field goal by Blake Grupe. But I got the New Orleans Saints winning this football game, and a very exciting game. Two teams that people aren't really paying that attention to because they're not in the divisional fight. They're not really in a playoff conversation. But I think as a fan base, both fan bases are going to enjoy this game. Cleveland Browns and New Orleans Saints fans, to me, they're kind of similar, right? Two blue collar type of communities, fan bases that basically just a 9 to 5 average Joes. The fact is they love their football team. They're passionate about them. They travel with them. They support them through the good and the bad times. So to me, in that regard, I got respect for Cleveland Brown fans, and I expect for Cleveland Brown fans to be in the Superdome. 2 wins doesn't matter. Cleveland Browns fans, they love their Cleveland Browns. The dog pound travels well. So it should be a recipe for the exciting game for the fan bases, and also us watching at home, and those like myself that's going to be breaking it down for you throughout the day. But let me go ahead and read some of your comments. First off, I want to say thank you all for being here. Take a few comments, then I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here. We'll be back for the halftime show and second half breakdown. So if you're not doing anything at halftime, you want to stick around for the second half. We are going to be breaking it down, talking about the game, doing the play-by-play and analyzing that second half. All right. So make sure you come on back. But let me go ahead and read some of these comments here. Dudley says, "Go Saints," but I think the Browns will win. I hope I'm wrong. It wouldn't surprise me if the Browns won. It wouldn't, and a part of me is like, I hate to say it, but I kind of feel like everybody else. Like, what are you gaining from winning these football games? Like, okay, I get it, right? Darren Rizzi is fighting for an opportunity to possibly be in that conversation to be the head coach permanently. You also got to think about the livelihoods of some of these players. Like, bad football is going to be bad football means that things are going to change, right? There's going to be some turnover. So if these guys can go out there and win enough games, it can be, you know, one of those situations where maybe they'll think about keeping Darren Rizzi. Maybe a guy that probably wouldn't be on the team next season if he takes advantage of his opportunities. Maybe the team will look at him even more. Maybe they'll keep him on. So there's a lot on the line, for some of these players. It's easy for us on the outside looking in to be like, why don't y'all just tank? But you got to think about, this is a business at the end of the day. It's a results driven business. So you just can't go out there and just phone it in because, you could be a player, you move your entire family to the city. Your kids are going to school. Your wife has already been embedded into the community. And then the next thing you know, a bad season, everybody's gone. So I think we look at it from, a sports fan perspective sometimes and not look at it from a human perspective. Just like if you take your entire family and you move them halfway across the country because you got a job opportunity, and then all of a sudden, like, y'all move there, y'all establish yourself, and then the next, maybe y'all there for a couple of years and the manager comes in there and tells you, well, if we can't pick up business, then guess what? I think we're going to have to close it down. Then you have to have that tough conversation with your family and tell them that more than likely you're not going to be able to be around here anymore. Like, that's tough. So I can understand why they're going to want to continue to play. But from a fan standpoint, as an onlooker, as a person that kind of covers the team, you have to wonder to yourself, like, what do you actually gain? You actually are losing more than you're actually gaining in some fans' eyes. Like, you can get a top 5, top 10 pick, a guy that can kind of change your misfortunes at a certain position and that can help you win. So I can understand why some Saints fans probably want them to lose down the stretch. Probably felt like the Atlanta Falcon game should be the last game they win. But it was, once again, I wouldn't be surprised if the New Orleans Saints lost this football game. Like I said, these two teams have bad records, but I think they had a little bit of bad luck, some injuries, some bad execution. Y'all know, like, I was listening to a Cleveland Browns radio broadcast, like, just kind of trying to understand the Cleveland Browns. And I promise you, if they didn't say the name Cleveland Browns, it would sound exactly how we feel and some of the issues that have been plaguing the New Orleans Saints. Like, some of the issues are very, very similar. So it's almost like one of those cases where they feel as if the stars were aligned a little bit better, then they would have a better record. So it wouldn't surprise me if the Cleveland Browns won this football game. Hopefully we can get hopefully we can get Jordan Mims in the mix today. Yeah, I think that you're probably going to see Jordan Mims. I mean, he's gotten a few carries over the last couple of weeks. He's taking advantage of those opportunities. And that's what I'm talking about. A player that more than likely, if a team ends up turning a page, getting a new head coach probably would be a casualty, probably wouldn't be looked at as a top priority, as a guy that can be in the fold under new leadership. So this can be a great opportunity for him. You take advantage of these opportunities while Kendre Miller is down, while Jamal Williams is down. Who's to say that another team isn't looking at their production over the next couple of weeks when you get those opportunities? Maybe if the Saints don't bring you back, somebody else will give you another opportunity. So this is not just for the New Orleans Saints, for these guys to showcase their talent. It's also an opportunity for them to showcase their talent for other teams and put some good positive film out there just in case they don't come back to the Saints. Jeremiah is on IR, TJ. Okay. I didn't know that. I actually thought that he was they took him off of IR, but I apologize. But he is a guy that has been very, very active, running around. He has been a sideline to sideline linebacker. And this is a guy that a lot of people, thought, would be like that next big thing in Cleveland, and he has been in some cases. But all in all, I mean, I know that he may be on IR, but I want to say he was working himself back. So I don't know if he's like one of those guys that's going to be out for the season. But the way that they were talking about him, I think it was on on the Cleveland Browns radio network. They were saying, talking as if he's going to be an integral part of the team, or the fact that that he might be coming back. I know about his injury, but they were saying like there's a possibility, I guess, he can come back in the next few weeks. Trevor Penning has been playing well the past few weeks. Let's hope he can stay consistent. Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's a plus. The fact that Trevor Penning has improved as a player. You got to give the offensive line staff a lot of credit for helping him and developing him. And, but like you said, I mean, the offensive line position is one of those positions where if they're not talking about you, it's a good thing. The fact that we haven't been talking about Trevor Penning over the last couple of weeks, and you can say whatever you want about Trevor Penning. Trevor Penning has been available every single game this season. No matter who was on the offensive line, Trevor Penning was out there battling. So for that, I give him credit. And, we criticize Trevor Penning quite often, especially here. We've joked around, made little spoof songs and parody songs about him. But all in all, man, I mean, I just feel like, the apology got to be much louder than the disrespect. And I'm saying this because we didn't feel like Trevor Penning. Well, I'm not going to put you in there. I felt like Trevor Penning didn't have any redeeming qualities. I kind of just looked at him like he was just an absolute bust. And, now he's playing really well. And I think that people need to give him his credit. I mean, he was the highest rated Saints player last week versus the Atlanta Falcons. Some people would say the Atlanta Falcons don't have a pass rush and they haven't been able to get home. They're dead last in the league. But all in all, even before that, we haven't really seen him give up too many plays. For the exception of that game, I want to say against Philadelphia, where he was making these boneheaded penalties by pushing Darius Slay out of bounds, giving him a little something extra. I haven't really seen him, resorting back to that type of behavior. He's still mean and nasty in the trenches, but at the same time, he's playing with really good technique, and he's playing with a level of confidence that you want to see in the offensive lineman. So I want to give Trevor Penning some credit and, continue to hope that he builds on that momentum that he has over the last few weeks that he has developed, and hopefully he can turn into a really good, solid offensive lineman for the Saints. Let's see. Get the likes up, Who Dat Nation. Yeah, thank you for that, Cartel. If you like the State of the Saints podcast, please hit the like button. I really appreciate that. Say, why Saints fans hate Winston? I don't think Saints fans hate Winston. I don't think so. I think that you have some Saints fans that just felt like, he wasn't very good. He wasn't, a top quality starting quarterback. But when you look at the quarterback that the Saints have in Derek Carr, you have to wonder to yourself, like, what do you actually lose? What did you actually gain? You went out there, you spent $150 million on Derek Carr for him basically for the last couple of years. You still ain't made the playoffs, still hasn't elevated the game from a quarterback perspective, hasn't elevated the players around him. So to me, I feel like you just wasted money. You could have kept a player like Jameis Winston, allowed him to be the starting quarterback until you actually found that guy, or you could have used that $150 that you used to try to acquire Derek Carr, and you could have used that on the defensive side of football. Maybe get another pass rush in here. Maybe get another wide receiver that can go opposite of Chris Olave. You had these opportunities, but you decided to spend it on Derek Carr, which, Derek Carr, decent, but, to me, you could have did a lot better. Like, I can not go to the playoffs with Spencer Rattler. I cannot go to the playoffs with Jake Haener. I cannot go to the playoffs with Andy Dalton, or Jameis Winston to that matter. So to me, I feel like that was just a waste of money. Not to say that Derek Carr, he doesn't provide some level of stability or some veteran knowledge to the game, but based on like what I've seen and the pedestrian quarterback play, and you're not winning games because of them, you're not really losing games because of them. It's just like, he just kind of thrust in there. And that's kind of what you look at when you're thinking about possible backup quarterbacks or your team that's trying to go through the motion, trying to get to March or April where you can draft your future guy. So I don't think that people don't like Jameis Winston. I think that some people just don't feel like he's that good. Some people feel like he doesn't warrant the attention and the respect that he gets. But, a lot of people like Jameis Winston because how personable he is, how honest he is when it comes to like his feelings and viewpoints and even like his little quirky type personality people like. So I just think that, it's a mixed bag, but I guarantee you there are more Saints fans that love Jameis Winston than Saints fans that don't. So it's just the way that he carried himself and the way that he kind of embedded himself in the community. And I always say, like, if you love New Orleans, they'll love you back. If you show love to the community, it'll show love to you back. Doesn't matter if you're all pro. Doesn't matter if you're a pro bowler. Doesn't matter if you're a guy that is in a greatest of all time conversation. It can just be a fact that you ran for 150 yards in one football game before, but every time they see you waving, you at these schools with talking to the youth, you're out in the community, you're acting all holier than thou because I got this type of money in my bank account. Like, he's a man of the people and he's carrying himself like that, and that kind of resonates with people in New Orleans and also Saints fans everywhere. It's going to be a pretty good game. I think it will be. I think it's going to be exciting. Elvin needs to tote that thing. Yeah, I think that they probably going to give him the ball over 25 times today. Any score prediction, TJ? Nah, I don't really have a score prediction, man. I think it might end up like, getting into like the 30s. Might be like, I think that it probably would be like 27, like 30 to 27 or something like that. I think they're gonna score some points in this game. I know that both teams might end up like looking at this game, you would think they won't score that much, especially like with Cleveland. They really don't score those many points. But I just think like with Jameis Winston, he's gonna try to make this thing exciting. Like it's gonna be one, like it's not gonna be boring because to me, you got Jameis Winston in the game. And Jameis Winston is going to try to throw that football. He's going to try to prove something. Like, I know you don't have the Dennis Allen dynamic where Jameis comes into the Superdome against Dennis Allen and he lights up a Dennis Allen defense, but you still have that thought in the mind of Jameis Winston, like, I could have been a starting quarterback. You didn't need to get Derek Carr, so I'm going to show you. And I think that he's going to do two things. It's rather Jameis Winston going to sling the ball all over the yard, all over the dome, putting up, big numbers, explosive plays, or he's going to throw the ball so much he's going to, get the ball picked off several times. He's going to end up getting benched. But it's one thing about Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston is going to go full throttle. He's going to go full throttle. He's not going to, phone it in. He ain't going to see too many check downs from Jameis Winston. I can tell you that right now. He's going to go out on his shield. Like it's going to look spectacular, but it's going to look like an absolute disaster. But there's no in between. Shante, thank you very much for $5. Said TJ, my opinion, if Jameis was started from the beginning instead of Deshaun, Cleveland would not have the losing record. Watson destroyed this team. Yeah, I think that you combine all the things, Chantel, the controversy that surrounded Deshaun Watson. The fact that he didn't really play football for 2 years, dealing with those personal issues. Like, it's kind of hard for you to like go away from the game, not really be involved like that, and then like kind of keep yourself motivated all the while keeping yourself in shape. And I also think that, that kind of played a role. Like, you're not being inside of the locker room because you're suspended. You don't really have a rapport with those players. Those guys established relationships with other guys, other quarterbacks that are taking snaps at practice, like Dorian Thompson-Robinson, right? At the time, PJ Walker, Jameis Winston, in this case, like Bailey Zappi. Like, you're basically establishing a relationship with these other guys, and you don't have Deshaun Watson around. And when you start playing bad, and you think about like some of the things that are surrounding Deshaun Watson, You probably got guys that are trying to keep it professional, but at the same time, you know, they don't respect the allegations that are surrounding him, and that could play a role. You know, when things are going bad, I start to look at the body language of the team, how they picking up their teammates, how they are being perceived by their teammates. Like, to me, if a quarterback is getting sacked on multiple occasions, and I don't see your offensive line like constantly picking, your quarterback up off the ground, your quarterback getting some extra after plays, and you don't see that offensive lineman, coming to his rescue, like Justin Herbert, for example. Like you seen Nate Shepard, and I like Nate Shepard, but that was some Bush League stuff. When he took Justin Herbert's leg and started the Gator roll, and then all of a sudden the offensive lineman just came there and blasted him. Like, I'm a Saints fan, I love the Saints, but at the same time, if that was my teammate, I'm doing the same thing to Nathan Shepard. So this is the type of stuff that I pay attention to, and I didn't really see that when it came to Deshaun Watson. I didn't really see these guys really, like rallying around him. I mean, we know about the classic soundbite from Jameis Winston, but that's just Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston kind of, you can think about like some of the things that he dealt with. People probably supported him and rallied around him, in his youth. But, a lot of those players, I just feel like they're just doing their job, man. You got to work with this guy. He has all this guaranteed money. He's not going anywhere. And also my performance determines if I keep my job or not. So I think that, you do have some players that probably were in that locker room that felt a certain type of way about Jameis Winston, not Jameis Winston, but Deshaun Watson in that regard. But I do want to mention the fine folks at BETUS. Thank you to BETUS. Sign up today, get up to 150% on your first deposit, up to 125% on your second and third deposit, up to $2,000. You can download the BETUS app, use the promo code YouTube150. I think as of right now, I want to say that the Saints are, I want to say they're a 1-point favorite in this game against the Cleveland Browns. It could have changed upon the making of this live stream, but the Saints are supposed to win the last time I checked. But you can bet with BETUS, and thank you to the fine folks for BETUS, official sponsor of the State of the Saints podcast. Who that TJ? The Saints end up with the first pick. Should the draft or trade back to get more picks 2025 and 2026? Well, to me, look, if you got the first overall pick, I think that you need to go ahead and draft yourself a quarterback. To me, it's been long overdue. The Saints kind of kicked the can down the road when it came to contracts. Well, not kind of. They kicked the can down the road when it came to contracts. And then to me, they kind of kicked the can down the road when it came to a succession plan to Drew Brees. That's why once Drew Brees retired, I don't feel like they pretty much solidified themselves. I think they had a plan, but it kept continuing to backfire. I think their original plan, to me, their bridge quarterback, no pun intended, was Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater was supposed to be that bridge quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. What they didn't account for was Teddy Bridgewater going out there and playing in those 5 games. They didn't expect for Teddy Bridgewater to go out there because Drew Brees was an Iron Man. Drew Brees was an Iron Man that never missed games. And then it just so happened he misses a game. Teddy Bridgewater comes in, Saints go undefeated under his watch. And then the next thing you know, Carolina trying to, throw money at him and, giving them all that money, the $60 million contract. So I think originally Teddy Bridgewater was supposed to be the bridge guy, but he was supposed to sit on the bench. But when he played, it kind of showed what he was capable of, and teams were like, I want some of that. So that was the first. The second one was the Jameis Winston experience. Like Jameis Winston was supposed to be that successor to Drew Brees. Problem was Sean Payton was the guy that was supposed to be the coach to help kind of coach Jameis Winston out of some of those negative qualities that he had, which is turning the ball over. To me, Sean Payton probably looked at this like this was going to be a little bit of a project to deal with. He probably wasn't very motivated since Drew is no longer there and he wanted to maybe move on. So that backfired. And then you hire a coach that wasn't very sure about himself or Jameis Winston for that matter. And, he flaked out at his first job. So he already had that type of paranoia going for him. So he wanted a little bit more of a pedestrian quarterback. So that's the reason why you had Andy Dalton as the quarterback. And then he went out there and got a guy similar to Andy Dalton and Derek Carr. And now we are where we are right now. So to me, this has been long overdue. It's been long overdue for the Saints to be able to draft themselves a quarterback. So if you got the first overall pick, you ain't trying to trade, because to me, you're not that type of team. Like we have to eliminate that from our mind frame, our thinking. The Saints aren't a contender. They're just not. The Saints are a team that is rebuilding. So you need to carry yourself as such. We don't want to look at it that way, because the Saints, a lot of you through your lifetime, they've always been relevant. They've been relevant when it came to offensive efficiency, good quarterback play, good coaching, et cetera, et cetera. And some of us still kind of look at this team that way. We need to continue to understand that this team isn't really that good. Like they're middle of the pack. In some cases, they're below middle of the pack. So when you have a team that is struggling, when you have a team that is not in playoff contention, when you have a team that's dead last in your division, you have to carry yourself as such. You may try to pretend like you're the part, but nobody believes you, right? I mean, you can act like you're rich and famous, but if you're not rich and famous, nobody's going to believe that you're rich and famous. You can try to pretend that you're a contender, but everybody can see that you're 3-7. You got offensive issues. You got a questionable quarterback play. You got a aging defense. So you're not fooling anybody. So if you got the first overall pick, you draft yourself a quarterback of the future. That's how the Saints need to operate. You can't look at the New Orleans Saints like you used to. And I think that's one of the things that really bother us as fans, is because we have this perception about the New Orleans Saints based on the performances of the past. And we're not looking at what's right in front of us. Like them getting ran over every single week, can't stop the run, bad technique, bad offensive line technique, just boneheaded plays. That's what teams that are not very good do. Then on top of that, you fired your coach, which is the epitome of what bad teams do. So they need to adjust and, have that mind frame like we're trying to rebuild something here. I'm living in Ohio and not a Brown fan, but I love J-Bo, so I root for him. But I'm from NOLA, but a Steelers fan. Yeah, I know, Chantel. I know you said that you lived in Ohio. I know there's quite a few shows where you reference the Browns or Ohio football. We appreciate you for being here. Really do. And thank you for the information. Like I said, man, I ain't perfect. There's sometimes where something will slide under the rug. I'll say something that, may necessarily hasn't happened or haven't come into fruition, or do I thought it's coming to fruition and hasn't, but I appreciate that. And I appreciate you stopping by, talking to us about the game today. Really appreciate that. Jameis is a walking meme without even trying. And I think that's probably what it is, Tom. People love people that are unapologetically themselves. He's not trying to be the part, to look the part. I feel like that is what resonates with people when they feel like what they're looking at is a person's authentic self. And the fact that he is that comical, the fact that he is that animated, the fact that he is that emotional, and that just his qualities, people like him. And I heard this. I was listening to Saints Insiders. Shouts out to those reporters, beat writers, and they were just talking about Jameis Winston, and they were giving a shout out to his PR team, and they were saying like how they put him in these certain situations, or how they tweet about him to make him relevant. But to me, like I feel like even if they weren't doing any of those things, he still would have the recognition and the attention that he gets because of his personality. It's just the fact that, he has that kind of all shucks type, mind frame, personality from Alabama. So he got that Southern drawl about him. And at the same time, it's like, he's fun to watch because it's almost like watching NASCAR, right? people watch NASCAR because two things. Like they want to see guys drive real fast, weave through other drivers, or they want to see them crash into the wall. It's no in between. It's not like, man, I want to see this dude just drive 100 miles per hour, just looping around the track, going around and around. They want to see him like navigate, be able to get past drivers to get to first place, or like I said, they want him to lose control and slam into the wall. And as crazy as that sounds, that's just the reality. That's how Jameis Winston is. People watch Jameis Winston for two reasons. It's rather they watch Jameis Winston to see if he's gonna light it up, or they're gonna watch him to see how many interceptions he's gonna throw. There's no in between. But it's still must-see television when he plays. I'll give you an example. The game versus the Minnesota Vikings when Derek Carr gets knocked out of the game with a concussion, and in comes Jameis Winston. And Jameis Winston drives the ball down the field. He rolls to his left and throws the ball completely across the field on a rope to A.T. Perry, right, for a touchdown. Now, that's like the cardinal sin. We hear this all the time. The cardinal sin is don't throw the ball back across your body, right? Because you can't see defenders coming underneath. Those rules don't apply to Jameis. Jameis don't care. Like, look, I'm just gonna throw a touchdown any way that I can. The play versus, I want to say, I don't know if they played New England or not, but he ended up like throwing a touchdown to the back of the end zone. I want to say it's Juwan Johnson or Marquez Callaway, and and Sean Payton about to chew him out, and he tells him his guy's playing, and Sean Payton, he says, well, the Patriots have a guy too. So it's just stuff like that. It's like you're going to get. It's like a car wreck. Like nobody wants to see the car wreck, but everybody slows down for it. So it's exciting. And like I said, he is himself. So people just want to, he's a captivating individual. Honestly, I think since we got McCoy back and we can call out the blocks blitz, we should win today. Well, I mean, that plays a role, but I mean, the Cleveland Browns, I don't care what you calling out. Cleveland Browns, they have a really good defense. Like when those guys are motivated, they can be one of the best. The one thing they're not mentioning about Bryce, he has the room to grow and a lot of potential. Yeah, look, I think that's something that bothers me about some of these quarterbacks and some of these organizations out here. And I hate to say it, fans, but we're kind of responsible for it too. We basically just label guys, and we kind of just throw them away if they don't automatically just come out the gate being everything we need them to be. And I feel like that is one of the reasons why a lot of these quarterbacks lose their confidence, because number one, we live in this NIL world today where if you don't like a situation, you can just go ahead and move on to something else. Like you can just I don't like being at this school. They only serve meatloaf on Wednesday, and I ain't no fan of meatloaf, or the coach yelled at me. Let me go to another school, right? So you have all these options. You can kind of create this little bubble for yourself where everything is just accommodating to you. So when you go to the National Football League, it's not like that anymore. Like teams don't have to accommodate for you. They drafted you. They feel like, man, we paid you all this money. Put your big boy pants on. But at the same time, when you combine the fact that fans don't really allow these players to grow and develop, like if they don't come off the bus first game of the season at the quarterback position going 26 of 30 for 317 yards and 3 touchdowns, man, he a bust. Or if he goes through some levels of hardship, then he ain't everything you need them to be. I said this, and some of you, this may sound like ancient history, but once upon a time, when a team drafted a quarterback, he used to sit on a bench. They used to have him sitting on a bench 2, 3, 4 years even in order for that quarterback to develop. And then when he comes in, the game is slowed down. He has had so many different practice reps. He's ready to rock and roll. That's why I look at guys like Jordan Love. I feel like Jordan Love, if he probably, or I know for a fact, if he would have started as a rookie, it would have been a disaster. And you would have had Green Bay Packers fans ready to move on. But the fact is, Aaron Rodgers played so well, MVP type football, he can sit on a bench. I'm talking Jordan Love, and learn and develop. It's not always the best thing to have a young quarterback. And it shouldn't be, oh, he's the number one pick, so he needs to play. Shouldn't be that way. Shouldn't be that way, man. And fans don't take that into account because we have grown accustomed to believing that if a guy is picked in the top 5, then he's supposed to be great. And we don't take into account the hardships that they may have in order to get where they need to be. And once again, I mentioned that NIL stuff where they can create this world for themselves. Well, what happens when you can't create this world for yourself and you live in this social media world where everybody's on it, right? Where you're hearing this criticism, you're seeing this criticism. All the while, you have to channel all that stuff out and play lights out football. And I just don't feel like that's fair. I think that a lot of quarterbacks end up flaking out or losing their confidence and not being able to play up to their abilities is because people are impatient these days. So when I look at Bryce Young, do I feel like Bryce Young is going to be the next great quarterback? No. But who's to say, like, if people had that level of patience they had when I was growing up, where you understood that if you put a rookie quarterback out there, he more than likely was going to get killed. I think that people would give this man the benefit of the doubt. You got to allow these young players to go through the motions. What we do is we look at the outliers and we compare the outliers to the other quarterbacks. Like CJ Stroud had an incredible season last year, right? And he's still playing well this season. Not like how he did in his rookie season. You got the little sophomore slump, more tape on you, but he's still playing pretty well. What we do is we're comparing Bryce Young to CJ Stroud because now we're saying, well, look what CJ Stroud did in his rookie season. But if you look at the situation in Houston, it's a completely different situation when you have DeMeco Ryans as your coach and, you all had all these plethora of draft picks and you have some really good ownership out there with the McNair family. So, when I look at that, I'm like, okay, he was kind of set up for success. But when you look at other, players like Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson, like, these dudes weren't really set up for success. And they were raw. So I don't know. I think it's a combination of, this social media world combined with the fact of the impatient fan base because we're looking at everybody else and we're comparing our players to other quarterbacks and other running backs and other wide receivers. And then we end up like souring on ours because they aren't that guy. But I think about Spencer Rattler. I think about Anthony Richardson. I think about Bryce Young. And Caleb Williams. They are what most young quarterbacks look like. We just don't pay attention to those type of quarterbacks because we're so fixated on Jaden Daniels and we're so fixated on some of these other quarterbacks that are rookies that are playing at a high level. But how many young rookie quarterbacks are playing like Jaden Daniels right now? Nobody. So there's always going to be an outlier. There's always going to be an outlier. There's always going to be that one guy that stands out among the pack. But that doesn't mean those other guys don't have anything to offer. It just means that they need to grow up and develop. TJ, this was just posted. Breeze as GM. Breeze is GM. I don't know about that. I know we love Drew Brees and stuff like that, and we want to get him some involved in some capacity. But I mean, just because a guy was a great player don't mean that he'll be a great general manager or a great coach or a great personnel guy in general. Like you can kind of throw ideas at him and try to see what he says, but I don't just think that good quarterback play or good play or no matter what your position is just means that you're going to be the next great anything. TJ, I really think we shouldn't take a quarterback this year unless it's Shadur. I'd rather see us take that quarterback out of Nebraska or Arch Manning next year. Yeah, I mean, but if you have a opportunity to draft a quarterback like Shadur Sanders or Cam Ward, or you do your homework and you feel like you can bring in a coaching staff or get some personnel that can actually fit that player skill set, you can win with that. But to me, I think if you pick it in first overall, I think that you need to get the quarterback of the future. But if you're picking like if you're trying to make a run at this and you're picking 11 or 12th or something like that, then no, I don't think you need to get a quarterback because this is not a deep year for the quarterback position. TJ, keep it real. The guy calling plays on defense is more aggressive than DA. I don't want to say he's more aggressive than DA. I honestly didn't see too much of a difference from the defense. I felt like the only difference was you seeing guys mostly relying on technique more so than just being in a position. I think that's the difference between Dennis Allen and some of these other defensive coordinators out here. They allow the guys that have a certain ability, certain skill set to be able to utilize said skill set. But when it came to Dennis Allen, it was more of scheme. Like, okay, this guy has this wide, this wide wingspan. He'll be able to get around his offensive lineman, so we're going to give him the majority of the snaps right here. Or, like, it's more like you're not relying on a player's instinct to make plays. There was a saying, okay, I don't want to say it was a saying, but there was a situation in practice where there was a red zone, play. Derek Carr threw a football into the end zone, and it was picked off by Jonathan Abram. And Dennis Allen got mad because he was like, the defense ain't gonna play it like that. The defense ain't gonna play it like that. And then the Saints went into the game versus the Atlanta Falcons, and that's the game where Jesse Bates picked off Derek Carr the same exact way Jonathan Abram did. But Dennis Allen chewed out Jonathan Abram for him trying to make a play because he used his instincts in order for him to be able to make the play. So to me, I feel like that maybe Joe Woods is going that route where he's going to allow Tyrann Mathieu to kind of, use his instincts, be able to kind of call it on the field a little bit, all the while working on his technique. So, and being where he needs to be. So I think that's the difference. I think that's the difference right now. So, but I don't feel like there's like more aggression. I just feel like he's just allowing these players to kind of be themselves a little bit more than what Dennis Allen would. We have a middle of the road team. We need to be blue collar. Well, I think they are trying to be blue collar, which is running the football, trying to be physical. But I think they need to like unload. I just think they need to unload the clip, man. I think the Saints leave too much left in the tank for me. Utilize Taysom Hill. I don't know if Taysom Hill is, like I said, on a snap count. I don't know if they just don't want to get him hurt. He's not fully healed, but he out there giving it his all. But I don't see enough for Taysom Hill for my liking. TJ, Jameis really on the cusp of beating us and moving us closer to our quarterback of the future when he himself could have been the guy under the right circumstances here, still helping us on another team. Yeah, I mean, but that's not the way the Saints wanted to go. And he could, end up beating New Orleans Saints today. That's not out of the realm of possibility. TJ, I hear you, but CJ Stroud, Jaden Daniels, Joe Burrow. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You're looking at the outliers. Like you're talking about every court. Like there's always going to be one quarterback that stands out amongst everybody else. Like, and because he stands out among everybody else, other quarterbacks get criticized because they're not that guy. Like who came out in 2020? Like I want to say Joe. Okay, let me look at the 2020 draft. Let me take a look at that. Because I know Jalen Hurts is one of the quarterbacks that came out of the draft. But even with him, like he didn't start off being everything he needed to be. All right, so you had Joe Burrow, then you had Tua Tagovailoa. Tua just starting to look like serviceable as a quarterback, right? I mean, but it took some years for him to kind of do that. Justin Herbert is another guy. Like Justin Herbert, good, but people kind of put him in that conversation, but he hasn't really like broken through. Jordan Love, like I said, sat on the bench like 2 to 3 years. If you looked at Jordan Love, like his first couple of seasons where, let's just say, Green Bay kind of have some things sold up and they put Jordan Love out there to play. I mean, Jordan Love was like 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, like throwing the ball into harm's way, getting sacked. But now you look at Jordan Love, like he's becoming one of the most respectable quarterbacks in the NFC. So, like I said, I mean, the only person that kind of like started off like being that beast, being that dog was Joe Burrow. You know, like everybody else, they kind of like established themselves and developed into those quarterbacks. We always look at the exceptions to the rules, and we apply the exception to the rule to every other quarterback that's out there. And we say to ourselves, why don't you play like him? Like that, I mean, that's just the way that it goes. Like, but I don't feel like that's not reality. Like, that's not like what every team would like to believe, that the quarterback that they draft is going to be the guy that is the outlier. But it doesn't work like that. It just doesn't. You're going to have one guy that's going to stand out among the crowd. Then you're going to have some guys that can eventually stand out among the crowd, but it's probably going to be in year 3 or year 4. So you can't look at what somebody else is doing, because everybody's situation is different. Let's see. TJ is about the coach too. Look at Mike Tomlin, never having a losing season, almost 19 years in NFL history. That tells you about coaching. Yeah, I mean, you got to be able to be a leader of men, and you also got to make sure that you have the right coaching staff to be able to get the best out of these players. I was looking at this interview with Cam Jordan and Kayvon Thibodeau, and they were talking about coaches. And Kayvon Thibodeau, who is a very talented defensive lineman for the New York Giants, he said that coaching matters. He's like, if you don't have a good coach, he's like, I don't care how good the player is. He said they'll never be able to live up to their potential. And he said, that he feels like, players need coaching. And I agree with that. Because, I mean, it's anything in life. Like, some people don't know how talented they can possibly be until somebody brings it to their attention and somebody brings it out of them. Like, you probably had a job where you just started off green, not really know what's going on. Now you're probably like 5, 10, 15 years into the job, and you're probably better than everybody else. Probably because you had some good training and somebody that actually believed in you and probably polished you into being what you are today. Or anything else in life. Like, you became what you became because somebody probably helped you along the way to develop to where you need to be. Coaching matters, man. We look at guys and we expect for them to rise above their situation. Some guys can, but in most cases they can't, because you need that right leadership. You need that you need that honest criticism, and you also need somebody to be able to bring that greatness out of you. So Spencer is a future star. He needs to sit a little while. Yeah, I think that, those games kind of helped him a little bit. But he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready. And if you got a young guy out there, you need some other things around him to be able to work in order for him to work. And the Saints didn't have that. Can't go out there with a preseason or roster and expect for a young rookie to go out there and thrive. John Elway, what is his position for the Broncos? I want to say he's a team president or something like that. President of the team, something in that regard. So I know he like an upper management. I feel like he got in front office and worked some years and moved up. Now they basically just started him off as an executive. And he did some good things, did some not so good things. But I think that him and maybe like John Lynch. I think John Lynch is is really good. Really good at what he's doing. So, I mean, they got some really good former players that have done some amazing things, like post football. And I think about with the Baltimore Ravens, Upshaw. Like, man, these guys have like really done like some really good work, and has turned those organizations into success by their draft process, the scouting department, the players that they bring in. We out the window on Rattler. You don't think with the right coach to groom him that he can't be a quarterback of the future? Look, I think with the right coaching, yeah, he can develop into the player that he needs to be. But like I said, coaching matters. It depends on who you get as the head coach. Who's the guy that you're going to select? Who is the guy that you are going to sit up here and say, you know what, like, man, I think this guy can bring the best out of him. Yeah. So I think that can be the deciding factor, who you bring in to develop the guy. I mean, it matters. Like if you sit him on the bench and you don't bring a coach in that can develop him, then he probably gonna be the same quarterback that he was coming out of college. We not blue collar, we're taking the collar. Let's see, 11 a.m. Mountain Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Time. Let's see, what you think about LSU Saints? I think that the LSU Tigers are a soft football team, and because they got a soft coach. I've been telling people about Brian Kelly. Like Brian Kelly is the type of coach that has success, but like ain't like what is like you have to think about like what has he really done? Like what has he really done? Like, yeah, he didn't like he played at Notre Dame, right? I mean, he coached at Notre Dame all those years. Now think about this. Notre Dame pretty much they're independent conference. They play whoever they want. Like, so they can go out there and play Northern Illinois or some of these middle of the pack teams that, have a name, but not as good. Probably recruiting class is trash. And then go out there and beat them and, beat those low hanging fruit. And the next thing you know, you're looking up, oh, Notre Dame undefeated. They go into the college football playoffs, get slapped around by one of these SEC schools because they don't have the physicality that can match up with those SEC teams. And this has been his calling card. Like, I think that he's a good coach, but you're not going to win nothing with it. I think that he is a coach that is more than likely can put a product on the field that can be respectable. This is a down year. I don't think like if he comes back next year, it's going to be the same, especially since you have Underwood coming out. But all I'm saying is like, dude is like, he is what he is. And I think that those players, like the players that he got, I don't think they respect him that much, And that's the issue that I feel like with NIL as well. Look, anybody that knows me knows that I'm all in favor for players getting paid. But at the same time, you need guys with like character. Like you need guys with character. You need guys that are coachable. You need guys that at the same time, yeah, we giving you a little bit of change for you to come to this school, and yeah, you know what I'm saying, we helping you with this endorsement deal. But at the same time, I need to be able to coach you. And this is the society that we're in right now. Like some of these young cats don't want you to tell them nothing. They feel like they're doing you a favor by showing up. And I think that's one of the main reasons why a lot of these older coaches that we've grown up watching are going to end up flaking out. And you're going to have like these young, innovative coaches out here that's going to be able to relate to some of these players, and they're the ones that's going to get the recruits. So I think there's a disconnect between him and his players. And then on top of that, I just think that he coaches a soft style of football. Like I ain't never seen LSU look as soft as they have this season. Like they soft. Like it looks like a Notre Dame football team. It depends on what you're playing. They might look the part, but then when they go up against stiffer competition, guys get hit them in the mouth. They fold like a cheap tent. You gotta have a mental mind frame, a different mental, in order for you to play football in the SEC, to be a coach of the LSU Tigers. I don't think he's a good fit. I don't. I think that there's something missing. I think that I don't think you're ever going to win anything with him. I don't think LSU will ever get to the national championship with Brian Kelly as the head coach. I just think I don't think I think he a good coach. I just don't think he a great coach. Hey TJ, is the Saints coaching staff developing the players we've been watching a poorly coached product, or was it just DA not knowing what he needed to do with the team? I think that I think that it was the latter. I think that Dennis Allen has a different style of coaching. And I don't think that, it really worked. And I don't think he dotted the I's and crossed the T's that much. I don't think he really, I think that maybe he looked at film. I think that he probably, critiqued guys, but I think that it was in a way where you wasn't really encouraging them. It was more so like you were trying to, I don't know, coach, like mentally coach them, where I'm not going to tell them how good they are, how great they are, how talented they are. I'm just going to have them guessing. And then on top of that, like I said, I don't feel like he did the little things. The little things matter. It's not just about the big things that stand out. It's the small things too. It's the technique. You got to coach certain qualities out of guys that are bad. And I don't think he did that. I don't think he paid attention to the small things. Like I always allude to Sean Payton and the whole cleat situation, like how he would go out there hours before the game, tell the equipment manager go out there hours before the game, what the grass looking like, put these type of spikes in the cleat. I mean, in your shoes. Like it's stuff like, it's the little things that matter, that give you a competitive advantage. I don't feel like he did those things. Like I said, I think that Dennis Allen was one of the worst coaches I ever seen in my entire life. Like I'm serious. Like as a defensive coordinator, really good, but as a head coach, one of the worst I ever seen. Like he just not head coaching material. His personality just not is not one of a leader. Like he has a follower's mentality. Like he's not going to be the guy that stands out in the front. Like they just not him. And the Saints trying to make him something that he's not. They basically just wasted 2.5 years of our lives and theirs. Not good enough to coach. The SEC is not the Notre Dame Irish Conference. Yeah, I mean, look, they, like I said, the Irish, they're independent conference, which means they can play whoever they want. They make their own schedule. They're not playing in any type of conference, so they can pick who they want to play. So they play, certain teams because they're rivalries. They'll play rivals. They'll play like USC or something like that, the Battle of Shillelagh or something. They got, and play Purdue. Like, come on, man. Purdue ain't hitting on nothing. Purdue is like one of the bottom teams of the Big Ten. It's certain games that they have on their schedule every single year, and they play against these low-hanging fruit. And the next thing you know, like what is Notre? Let me look at Notre Dame's schedule just for a second. Let me see who Notre Dame played this season. Like they just played against the Virginia Cavaliers, who are 5-5. These are the teams that you're playing, right? So let me see. Let me start at the top here, and let's see. Looking at these teams that they played. All right, so they played against Texas A&M, which is a respectable team. They beat them 23-13. Then they lost to Northern Illinois. They beat Purdue 66-7. Miami of Ohio, Louisville, Stanford, Georgia Tech, Navy, Florida State, Virginia, and now they play Army next week. Now, out of those teams that I just named, for the exception maybe Texas A&M, who's a contender? I'm just saying, like it's a bunch of middle. There's a bunch of middle of the pack type teams that they play against, teams that have a name. Like looking at it, like, ooh, this can be a game. But you're looking at it from a historical and a traditional standpoint. But if you peel back the layers, you'll see that that team ain't what they used to be. And then they find themselves like, competing in the college football playoff because they're 9-1. You know what I'm saying? But they ain't played nobody. So that's kind of like what Brian Kelly has been throughout the entire time he was at Notre Dame. They pick and choose their schedule. They might have one contender up in there, maybe two down the stretch, just to say that they actually played somebody. Then they go to the college football playoff or bowl game and get slapped around, and it makes it seem like they don't even belong there. And that's been Brian Kelly's career. Brian Kelly, like, his probably best coaching job was when he was at Cincinnati, maybe. That was it. Other than that, like, he has always had a team where they have double-digit wins, goes up against a top team, and it don't even be close. That's why, like, man, when LSU hired him, I was like, why? I just knew. I was like, okay, they gonna win some games. Yeah, but the thing about it is it's the kind of coaching that ticks you off. It's the kind of coaching that ticks you off because it's like, you tease us. Like, he is the Kirk Cousins of coaching. Like that, I mean, that's the best way I can put it. He gonna look the part. He gonna have you excited about, where you at. He gonna have you out here talking noise to other people. But then when it's time, like when they call it, when it's nut cutting time, as they say, when when it's time, when the game is on the line, the chip is on the table, he don't deliver. That's Brian Kelly. That is Brian Kelly in a nutshell. And it's going to continue to frustrate you because this it's a down year. I will admit it is a down year for the Tigers, but it won't be like that next year. It won't. And they'll probably win some games, and they'll probably have LSU Tiger fans excited and have them feeling like they're going to win something. And then the next thing you know, when they go up against Alabama or go up against, like Texas A&M or something, they're going to fall. They're going to fall, and people going to be disappointed. Honest opinion, Saints 144, Browns 3. Josh, thank you very much for the $2. I don't think it's going to be that type of blowout. I think Colorado could beat LSU. I agree. I think they can. 99 dog, absolutely. TJ salute. Yo, thank you very much for the $2, man. I appreciate that. Same thing I said about the Saints for first two gems. The Saints overlook Tulane players, which I don't understand. I don't understand that. Tulane running back is a monster. Everybody talking about Ashton Genty. I mean, what they should. I mean, this dude is a beast too. And I feel bad for him because, you got Travis Hunter out there in Colorado, and he's polarizing, right? I mean, they games all on television and stuff like that. And, Boise State, like, people don't even know when they play. Like, I know they play around Mountain West time or something like so. Ashton Genty running for 250, 300 yards a game, and nobody watching it. But, everybody know about Colorado and everybody wants to watch him. So he got that going for him. But in another world, another universe, universe where Travis Hunter didn't exist, I mean, everybody be talking about Ashton Genty. And I feel bad for him. I really do, man. Because he definitely deserves the attention. Do you think Green Bay has someone in what? Oh, Gail Benson, I guess. Do you think Gail Benson has someone in her ear behind the scenes? Yeah, I'm pretty sure she has like a team, and we know and we've heard about the team because when Dennis Allen was a dead man coaching, she was getting advisement from that team. So yeah, I think she has a team. LOL, LSU is horrible as well. Tulane can beat LSU. That'd be an interesting game. That'd be an interesting game. AK will have the first ever 1,000 rushing game. Man, you must be playing Madden over there. You might be playing Madden over there, Josh. If the Saints do not call a Tulane player name, something is wrong. Yeah, man. I mean, you got to be able to look at what's around you. But I don't know. I think maybe the Saints over. I said about Sean Payton. Sometimes like he overlooks stuff, right? He overlooks it. Like, well, not overlooks it, but he kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? He overanalyzes. Yeah, like he probably in his mind he'll probably think, okay, if I draft the LSU player, that means that he's gonna be close to home, which means that he's gonna be around his buddies, which means distractions. That's probably what they were thinking, which I can understand because especially, looking at that Hulu series about Aaron Hernandez. Like, Aaron Hernandez grew up in Bristol, Connecticut, which is not that far from where the Patriots play at all. So he was able to kind of get in his car and drive home all the time, right? And you still have like some of those same vices out there that kind of held you, that kind of held you back. And now you got a little money and stuff like that. And those guys you were trying to impress the entire time, now you're around that community. So I can understand it to a certain extent that you want to get guys, out of their community, maybe get them far away sometimes to be able to focus just solely on football, maybe to establish a life outside of where they come from. I get all that. But when you have a player sometimes that can be generational or has the potential to be generational or has the ability to be able to improve your football team, and he just so happens to be an hour and 30 minutes up the road, or in this case, maybe less than 20 minutes, so I don't know, man. I think that the New Orleans Saints kind of overthink things sometimes, but if you got a player that's special, I don't care what they playing at, you got to go after them. Don't worry, TJ, let them sleep so we can draft Genty. We have injuries at running back and an amazing mentor in Alvin Kamara if we can get him. Look, the world, the college football world, I'm talking about as far as like these writers and stuff like that, like they find Travis Hunter polarizing. He's a polarizing character. Like, look, man, I mean, I know firsthand how special like Travis Hunter is. Like, I watched Travis Hunter just like Shadur Sanders his entire football life. And a part of me, want Travis Hunter to win the Heisman. I mean, the guy for the first 2 years of his collegiate career went to my alma mater. So, to me, like, that's like, Jackson State almost, having a person that won the Heisman. But all I'm saying is, I don't think a lot of people are paying attention to Genty because of the attention that Travis Hunter is getting. The constant games on television, the polarizing head coach, the polarizing quarterback that throws him the football. All those things play a role. And like I said, meanwhile at Boise State, people aren't up watching Boise State. Like, what are you watching Boise State for? I mean, the Smurf turf? Like nobody's really staying up watching it. You'll have some football enthusiast, that'll stay up and watch him play. I mean, I watched him play. I mean, he's incredible. The guy that's small, like he's built like Doug Martin, but he has like really good balance, really good vision, and that offensive line of Boise State is very underrated. Like, I think sometimes when we look at players, like we looking at how well he runs, but we ain't paying attention to the offensive line is blocking for him. But he's a good, talented player, man. I think people know how talented he is. He will be a top 10 pick, especially if the Cowboys end up being there. To me, I think you already got Alvin Kamara. I'm looking at guys like Ollie Gordon out of Oklahoma State, a big physical guy. 6'1", 6'2", about 225 pounds. Like that's somebody I'm looking at to complement Alvin Kamara, because I don't think Ashton Genty is going to be there. Like when you pick, I don't. Like you already beat the Cowboys, so if the Cowboys keep on losing, you know what I'm saying? Like they're going to be in front of you. That Hernandez story was unbelievable. Oh my God. Yeah, that was unbelievable. But all that's like, I want people to pay attention though. All that stuff is speculative. Like they give you that disclaimer at the end of the show, basically saying, "Look, we changed location and date, and this is a dramatization." So there's some truth in that, but there's also like some stuff where they kind of embellished a little bit, but sound like Mike Tyson went a little bit, a little bit. But I thought it was a good documentary. I thought it was like a good biopic about a guy, and kind of make you see, like, understand, like, how things could possibly unravel for him. Now I say grab a tight end before a running back. I think you need to look at the running back position, man. I mean, I think, to me, I would definitely draft a running back. I would definitely draft a running back. But I do want to take this moment to thank the fine folks at BETUS. You can sign up today, get up to 150% on your first deposit, up to 125% on your second and third deposit, up to $2,000. You can use that promo code YouTube150 when you visit the BETUS website or you download the BETUS app. Like I mentioned today, the Saints are a 1-point favorite versus the Cleveland Browns, so you still have time before this game starts to place your bet. I'm suiting up in the locker room, putting my Richard Lee coach jersey on, number 0. Let's see. Alvin Kamara is playing. Yeah, he playing today. Hughes out of Tulane is a great compliment. Travis Hunter is like a Nord Park ball, 130 play. Man, the guy, he never leaves the field. I don't think you're going to be able to do that on a professional level, but TJ, this is what I'm thinking if I was the Saints. I work on drafting offensive lineman, wide receiver, defensive line, linebacker, wait for a quarterback in 26. They are stuck with Carr next year. Yeah, I mean, that's a good idea, and that is a part of my thinking. But I think at the top hemisphere, if you just tuned in, the question was asked, what would I do if the Saints get the number 1 pick? If I get the number 1 pick, I'm drafting a quarterback, because with the number 1 pick, you have the opportunity to draft the best player possible. So, but if it's like, okay, you picking 11th or 12th or something like that, yeah, I'm getting the best offensive lineman. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting the best wide receiver. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at the cat out there in Arizona. The wide receiver out there. I'm looking at Will Campbell. I'm looking at, like, who can I get? Speaking of Mike, did you watch that fight? Unfortunately, I did. But shouts out to John Bone Jones for making up for the weekend for Combat Sports, because that script, that Young and the Restless, that God and Light that we watched on on Friday night, was an embarrassment. And it kind of tells you, Mike Tyson's mind frame leading up to the fight. Like, there was this clip that was going around, him being interviewed by a young reporter, young girl who's was doing some reporting, asked him questions, and she asked him about his legacy, and he was talking about nobody cares about a legacy, nobody cares about this stuff. When you're dead, you're dead. That's it. You're just dirt, maggot food, if you will. That's what he said. But it's like he got disgusted with the question, and I was thinking to myself, like, why wouldn't you think about your legacy, right? And why would you get like that animated and upset when somebody asks you something like that? Probably because you know what you're about to go into the ring and do. I mean, putting all those hype videos up showing like he banging to the body, banging to the head and all that, and getting to the ring and you barely even do anything. To me, like these two guys, and look, I grew up watching Mike Tyson. I grew up watching him. My grandfather used to order all the pay-per-view with Mike Tyson fought. When he fought Holyfield, I was watching that on pay-per-view when he bit his ear. I watched the first fight that they had, the Lennox Lewis fight. I mean, I watched my fair share of Mike Tyson fights. But what they did on Friday was just absolutely embarrassing to the sport of boxing. Boxing that I still love to this day, man. I still watch boxing. I'm still a huge boxing fan, huge Terrence Crawford fan. You know, I love watching boxing, but it's just sad, man, and it also speaks volumes to everybody. Like, we know for a fact, like, this Jake Paul character, like, this guy is basically just a YouTuber. Like, we know that they schedule these fights, they get these low hanging fruit. More than likely, they having these smoke filled room conversations, but we still tune in because of the entertainment factor. But to me, that was the first fight that I ever seen from Jake Paul. Like, I've never seen one of his fights, because you kind of just know just what it is. But it's just sad that one of the most legendary polarizing figures seemed like, they got into his head and they dangled a little, dangled some money in his face, and he was willing to go in the ring and kind of, defecate on his legacy. And I think everybody kind of saw that, because once they got into the ring and, people got all excited, they seen the ring walk from Mike Tyson, and everybody started getting excited. And when the bell rang and people kind of just seen him kind of just standing there going left and right, not really throwing anything, and Jake Paul just kind of going around in a circle, little pot shot, and everybody kind of realized that they've been had. I can only imagine what a person feels like if they paid money to go see that fight. Like, I can only imagine. Like, I would feel like so duped, and I think a part of the people, people's silence was the fact that they were embarrassed to be a part of that, because they were duped into believing like they were actually going to see a real exhibition, which, I think it had a lot to do with Mike Tyson and his personality. And people like, there's no way Mike Tyson would just go up in here and be a part of this stage stuff. Well, I think he was. I think he was a part of it. I think that they embarrassed boxing. And if I hope that it was worth it, because, I don't think dude is a good fighter, and I think nobody's going to pay him any type of attention anymore. That's just what it is. Like, nobody's don't pay him any type of attention or give him the respect. Like, oh man, he fighting who? Okay, I check out the highlights, and that's just kind of what it's going to be. So I hope that, I'm pretty sure the money was worth it. I think he got paid like $40 million plus gate. And Mike Tyson got paid maybe $20 plus. He probably gonna get a portion of the gate as well. But I thought it was embarrassing. Like, seriously, I thought it was embarrassing. And it speaks volumes about our society. Like, I just wonder, like, what do we actually care about? What do we actually value? Like, do we value just entertainment? Do we want to believe what we're seeing is real? Do we, like, it just kind of puts things into perspective for me, because I'm just wondering, like, do people care about the product? Like, is it just the fact that, oh, homie just entertaining, and I just want to be entertained? It don't matter if it's not real what we're watching. Like, to me, I don't want my intelligence questioned. Like, people would say, oh, well, TJ, you're a wrestling fan, but I know wrestling isn't real. Like, I grew up knowing wrestling wasn't real, right? I know that it's predetermined. I know that at Survivor Series, you got OG Bloodline versus the new Bloodline. Like, I know that those guys are in the back discussing the match and who's going to take the pinfall. Like, I know that, right? But when it comes to boxing, somebody trying to take your head off, you would like to believe that, hey, man, this guy trying to avoid a man trying to take his head off. But I just think that, they just disrespected boxing. If I'm a boxer, like, you calling out like Canelo Alvarez and, all these other fighters, like, man, I want, if I'm Canelo, I don't want to fight. Why would I want to do that? And if I'm fighting you, I'm definitely going to fight you for real. I'm not going to sit up and like, okay, we're going to go 8 rounds, and, in a third round, you can hit me. And like, nah, bro, miss me with that. It's sad, bro. People should know better. Boxing on Netflix. Come on now. Netflix is for actors and actresses. Got to be smarter. Yeah, I mean that, and and speaking of Netflix, garbage. Live stream garbage. I mean, absolutely garbage, man. That was garbage. Like Netflix is one of the OGs of streaming. They kind of new to this whole live stream thing. But you would think like you're an OG company that has been streaming longer than most of these other apps have. And they seem like they got a better bandwidth than you. Like, that's sad. Like, it kept buffering like over and over and over again and over. And like, you're giving somebody a Mike Tyson fight, regardless to like what we know now, right? It was to me, it was rigged, staged. Some people would say it wasn't. Whatever. Y'all can believe what you want to believe. What do you think people were going to do? Like, you say you give people Mike Tyson on free television. I'm gonna tell you, man, Mike Tyson is gotta be in this world a top 10 most polarizing and recognizable figure. Mike Tyson can do virtually anything and people will watch. There's only a handful of people in this world that I can just think of right off the bat. They can just be doing anything and people gonna watch. Snoop Dogg is one of them. Mike Tyson is another. You know, you got a handful of people, you know, people are just gonna watch. So Mike Tyson could have just spent like Mike Tyson on stage talking for 30, 45 minutes. Join us on Netflix. People gonna watch it. And they probably would have got the same amount of attention as the fight did. You're giving it to them on free, basically for free, if you're paying for the app. I mean, I don't know, man. You got to figure. Y'all been doing this too long. Like Roy Jones' last few fights, hard. And man, I love Roy Jones. I grew up watching Roy Jones, but my dude, that wasn't it. And I love Rosie Perez. Like, Rosie Perez is a huge boxing fan, but that wasn't it, bro. That wasn't it. And Mauro Ronaldo, you know, I like Mauro too. I think he's animated and exciting, but yeah, I mean, all he basically does is just use rap references. Like, we know you're a hip hop head, bro. But the whole commentary team, like Roy Jones, like Mauro Ronaldo, like Roy's looking real bad for Mike. Yeah, Mike just can't move the way he do. Yeah. sound like that dude in jail on Trading Places. Yeah. That's what he was doing like all the time, man. That's what he was doing all the time. And what I just did, that's what Netflix was doing. Be like, yeah, man, because the first time we ever showed you, and we're here on the State of the Saints podcast, and that's what it was doing, buffering on. Like Mauro, like, and Mike has to slide to the left and move to the right. Yeah. It'd be funny, like when they be showing Roy Jones, be like, and if in the first time he tried to slide to the left, and then he tried to move to the right, and then he tried to slide over there. But you really was supposed to slide to the right and then move to the left, and then hit him with an upcut. He be under him shoulders up. Cause I feel that Mike wasn't really ready for the fight, because Mike, he 58 years old. Now he's trying to compensate for the fact that he is 58 years old, and you can see his knees ain't what they used to be. And then you had Jake Paul. All you had to do is move on to the left, move on to the right. Like, I said, man, Roy, man. And then, oh my goodness, man, who seen Evander Holyfield? We told the end of the show. Y'all know, man. I got the Saints win against the Cleveland Browns. Be kind, rewind, go to the beginning of the show. You want to hear? I talked maybe about 20 minutes about that. But did y'all see Evander Holyfield, man? Why they had Holyfield up there like that, man? Why did they have Holyfield? Man, man, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with it. I'm not gonna speculate. Vander Holyfield, one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. But Holyfield, he didn't need to be up there, man. The lady trying to ask Holyfield questions and Lennox Lewis trying to be a good friend. What do you think about the fight? I think that Mike, I'm like, dude, what y'all doing, man? What y'all doing? That was sad, man. That's like one of them situations where, you know, everybody got heroes, right? You know, everybody got heroes. Everybody got people that, you know, they see and, you know, kind of, you know, I don't say, I guess you could say idolize. Some people idolize them and that just say you see them down bad or something. Like you see them under the bridge or you see them like, you know, walking all slow, gingerly. Like you don't want to see heroes like that, man. Like you don't want to see them going out sad like that. That was sad, man. That man did not need to be up there. It was clear something wasn't there. I don't know if maybe he had something to drink. I don't know, maybe, you know, those blows to the head throughout the years, you know, it's kind of affecting him, but they shouldn't have put him up there like that. They shouldn't have put him up there like that. I felt bad for him. Boy, you sound just like Roy. Man, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to tell you, this is the State of the Saints podcast with your boy TJ Jones. I'm telling you, man, the Saints, when they play the Browns today, what Derek Carr got to do is move to the right and then scramble to the left, and then he going to be able to check it down to Alvin Kamara. But when you check it down to Alvin, I think I'm gonna start. I think I'm gonna do that. I think I'm gonna do a podcast, the entire podcast in my Roy Jones impression. Be like, once y'all come back for the halftime report, when Timothy J. Jones, when we break down the first half of the Saints versus Browns. Now you got Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston was over there on the side of the bench. He always mumble up them words. He always come the words up together. You see that? Yeah, Jameis Winston over there on the bench. He was over there. He was backing up Derek Carr. Now everybody know that Jameis Winston should have been starting quarterback. But because they decided to go with Derek Carr, DA. Oh man, we about to get up out of here, man. That's exactly how the Saints are right now. All these veterans past their prime, knees weak. That's not what they used to be. LOL. Need to get younger. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna read this in my Roy Jones. Now, exactly how the Saints are right now. All these veterans past their prime, knees weak, and they need to get used. They need to be how they used to be, and they need to get younger. I saw Cedric the Entertainer confused. Man, Cedric was up there looking like the Princess of Moonderun. That man was on shine, boy. Bring Roy to the halftime post game, TJ. All right, I'm going to see what we can do. 9 in the building. 9 in the building. Oh, man. Drew Brees in the building. Oh, I changed my pick. Saints about to lose to the Cleveland Browns. Saints about to lose to the Cleveland Browns. I'm sorry, I like Drew, but the Saints, they don't be doing Drew no favors, man. Every time Drew in the building somewhere and somebody like, man, Drew out here. L. Let's see. Jameis should have been our quarterback. Yeah, I mean, he should have. 9 Ward TJ. He said the Saints will. He said the Saints will win. Okay. All right. I mean, look, let's see if we can break this hex of Drew Brees showing up to the game and the Saints fumbling all over themselves. Definitely should have kept Jameis Winston. I think so, man. You could have saved a lot of money. Could have saved a lot of money. He could have been that bridge guy. Oh, they say Roy Jones could actually spit a little bit back in the day. I like 2 of his songs. Yeah, I mean, he was all right, man. He had the body headbangers. You know, I smoke, I drink. I'm supposed to stop, but I can't. He was part of that one, right? And I like that song when he was with you know, with Juvie on there. The main event, the step in the square. I like that joint. But yeah, he had a decent little mixtape. Let's see. Everybody old was tied on full flats, especially Holyfield and Mike. Yeah, man. I don't know, man. Lennox looked like he was the most sharpest one out there. You know, everybody else that they have. I mean, it's sad to watch, man. I ain't want to see Holyfield like that. Speaking of Holyfield, man, did y'all know Elijah Holyfield, his son, he ended up signing a deal with WWE, so that should be exciting. And Trill Williams, the former New Orleans Saint, he just signed a contract with WWE, so that's pretty cool, man. Might see former New Orleans Saint Trill Williams in NXT in a couple of months. So that's pretty dope. He's about to be Christmas in November. Gift wrapped a few picks. Oh, man. Said what? Yeah, man. Trill Williams. Trill Williams just signed a deal with WWE, him and Elijah Holyfield. And yeah, so that ought to be interesting. They might end up being a tag team or something. Famous Jameis finna throw a couple picks and still get a chance. It's going to be a stressful game for with us coming out with the win. I just want to see an exciting game. But I want to say thank you all for checking out the Stay the Same podcast with yours truly, Tim J. Jones. And I want to let you know that the show is brought to you by BetUS. Now, BetUS, now you sign, you know, when you sign up for BetUS, you get 150% on your first deposit. But on your second and third, you get 125%. Now, today, they have the Saints as a 1-point favorite over the Cleveland Browns. Now, if you believe that the Saints going to beat the Cleveland Browns by 1 point, you can go ahead and place your bet here at BetUS. Download the promo code U2150. All right, that's what y'all need to do. Now, previous episodes of the State of Saints podcast is over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, and you can also subscribe to the channel and also hit that like button. All right, now we're gonna be back. We're going to be back for the halftime show, and we're going to go ahead and do a play-by-play of the second half like we've been doing for the last couple of weeks. And make sure y'all come over to Bleacher Report when it's all said and done. All right, we jam-packed. We want to make sure that you all know we jam-packed, and we're going to do this thing like we always do every single time we be here on the State of Saints podcast. Now, I am your boy, TJ Jones, who is acting like he Roy Jones. No relation. But till next time, all I got to say is, who that?
Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. I'm good.